Hi friends, I hope life is treating you kindly. I'm Lubomira and thank you for joining me today. Welcome to all my crafty friends, new and returning. I'm so glad to have you here. If you're new to my channel, I invite you to check out more of my content. I love sharing my projects with you all, and I appreciate you taking the time out of your day to spend a few crafty moments with me. Please remember to like and subscribe if you haven't already. By hitting that little bell, you'll get notified every time I post something new, and you'll never miss out on any of the crafty goodness. In today's video, I'm sharing a colorful birthday card. This is definitely a fun card with lots of colorful details. I'm excited to share this card with you, so let's get into the video. To create this card, I used a Dollar Tree stencil, die cut, rub on, and a stamp set for the greeting. I started by creating my background. I ink blended a standard size A2 panel using Distres Oxide inks in the colors Salvaged, Patina, Kitsch Flamingo, and Squeezed Lemonade. For those of you that are new to card making and are still building their ink collections or need help in choosing what inks to get first, you don't have to have every color under the sun for a full range of colors. One way to cut back on having to buy a lot of inks is by choosing inks that combine to make other colors. Think back to your elementary years of learning primary and secondary colors, red, yellow, and blue, to make orange, green, and purple. By combining these three colors, you can basically fill in an entire rainbow spectrum. Next, I ink blended through a Dollar Tree birthday cake stencil. I masked off areas around the stencil, but it really wasn't necessary since I ended up cutting out the cake anyway. I used both large and small blending brushes over the stencil to apply the ink. Overall, I was pretty heavy-handed with my ink on both the cake and the panel. I decided to heat emboss the cake stand to make it stand out. I first pressed some embossing ink through the stencil, making sure to mask the areas I didn't want to get ink all over. Once I had the ink in place, I removed the stencil from the cardstock and sprinkled gold embossing powder over the wet ink. Now, I was careful not to apply powder onto the Distres Oxide ink because I didn't really give it time to dry, and the powder would have stuck to it. I applied the powder at such an angle that it only went over the embossing ink. After placing the powder, I heat set it with my heat tool. To decorate the background, I used a Dollar Tree rub-on with birthday-themed words. I trimmed a piece of the rub-on, creating a sliver that I could apply to the left side of my panel. Now, one of our lovely crafters left me a comment a few weeks ago about applying rub-ons with the die cut machine. She referred me over to Lindsay, the frugal crafter, and a video Lindsay had about this technique. I'll make sure to link the video in the description. I had never done this technique before, so I was intrigued to see if it would work. I applied the rub-on to the cardstock as I normally would and placed it between my cutting plates with a piece of cardstock over it to just give it a little bit more pressure. Now, I have a set of plates that I dedicate to non-cutting tasks, so I didn't have to really worry about any indentations. However, if your plates are cut up, put a piece of cardstock over your panel before running it through the machine to prevent any marks on your project. This is definitely the easiest way to apply rub-ons quickly over a larger area. I was very impressed when I pulled back the release tape to reveal the applied rub-on. Next, I die cut a decorative border along the edge of another white panel. I attached the die with a low-tack tape so the edge of the top of the die lined up along the edge of the cardstock before running it through my machine. The die cut is shorter than the panel, so I had to adjust it by extending the die past the previous cut pieces, making sure that the already cut pattern fit into place within the die. Then I ran the die through my machine a second time to complete the panel. Once I had my panel, I trimmed it down using my trimmer. I I took about 1.5 inches off of the right side. Since the border is very delicate and dainty, it would have been impossible to hide foam tape behind it for stability. Instead, off camera, I die cut several thinner pieces in the same manner as the full panel to stack behind the border. I attached the layers together using liquid glue. The reason I only used thin strips rather than lining the full panel is because I didn't want to add weight to the card. This way, I only added the layers to where I needed the support and added foam squares to secure the remainder of the panel. The thickness of your foam will determine how many layers of cardstock you'll need to stack. I cleaned up the edges of my card panel of any of the layers that might have been peeking through by cutting the overhang with scissors. I secured my panel to my background using foam squares, also making sure to add glue to my built-up portion of the back. To help me align everything, I used my mini MISTI and placed the card into the positioning tool to attach everything together. For the greeting, I used a simple happy birthday from the Dollar Tree birthday sentiment set. I placed the card into my mini MISTI, pre-treated the area with an anti-static tool, and stamped the words in Versamark ink. Then I sprinkled gold embossing powder over the wet ink and he set it with my heat tool. Off camera, I cut out my cake. I attached it above my greeting using foam squares. For a fun detail, I added a line of dots along the bottom of each layer of cake using pops of color. I tried to coordinate the colors as closely as possible, but even if they don't match, the card is so colorful that it doesn't really matter. The pops of color needs time to dry, so I left the panel alone for several hours before returning to it. When the panel was dry, I attached it to a white card base using liquid glue. To finish the card, I added some gems around the cake, again trying to coordinate with the rainbow colors, and I added a wink of Stella to the cake layers. Rather than apply the shimmer to the whole cake, I drew in some lines and dots for a subtle effect. And that's it for this card. This card was a lot of fun to make. It's bright and cheerful and perfect to celebrate someone's birthday. Let me know what you think in the comments below. As always, I am so grateful for you stopping by. I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't already, and please leave me those comments below. I so appreciate all you have to say. I hope you'll join me next time for another project. Until then, have an amazing week, and I hope life treats you kindly. Take care. Bye.